to be alive. Tip 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 doo doo. The link from the music before, that would be this. That would be this right here. Oh, hello everybody, welcome back. I was outside shoveling some snow today. Didn't realize, oh, I heard it earlier, but I forgot. We were supposed to get a few inches of snow. The music that was playing before was this. It's just from this YouTube video. 963 hertz. Made some lunch. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? Welcome in. I guess I should say hi before I just immediately jump into talking about the pizza that I made for lunch. We got these little pita breads from Costco, and I made some pizza sauce. Because we made homemade pizzas on the Super Bowl. So I had some pizza sauce left over. I had these little pita breads. So I shredded up some mozzarella, made a little mini pizza. Hi, I'm really upset today. Hi, really upset today. I'm Papa B. Did that help? Did that help? Sounds like you have perfectly good reason to be disappointed. It sounds like you had a good opportunity. It ended up not coming through. Not due to any fault of your own, mind you. Maybe something better will come along. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. They did tell me they'll call me on other projects, though. So, they like you... Okay, hold on. So let me get this straight. They like you so much that they thought about bringing you on, even though they were already at capacity. But they're going to keep you in mind for future stuff. They like you that much... Still dressed in my, like I said, I was outside shoveling snow. When you say it that way, it makes it better. Good. That'll be $5. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to start charging. That'll be $5, please. I'm kidding. Maybe somebody will gift you a sub. There is slowly but surely growing back. Alrighty, while we get settled in, I forgot about inflation. Oh yeah, it's $5.99 now. Sub prices have gone up. Welcome back in, everybody. How are you doing today? How are we doing? How you feeling? Just scarfing down my lunch real quick before we really get into it. If you have a question, go ahead and drop it in that question box. Nothing in there yet. Nothing in there yet. You could go right away. You could be number one. But who knows how long that's gonna last. Fold this in half and eat it like a little pizza taco. I've got a presentation later. We're talking about inspiration. I'm sure you'll find this presentation very inspiring. Thinking of making banana bread. It's always a good day to make banana bread, especially if you've got overripe bananas on hand. We've got a big, meaty presentation for you later. It sounds kind of inappropriate when I put it that way. Anyway. Never had banana bread? You know, it's actually really easy to make. The only thing that you need that you can't just buy is like very ripe bananas. You need like 3 of them. Banana bread's super easy. It's just mashed bananas, sugar, butter, an egg or 2. It's pricey these days. Anytime I have to put an egg in something, I'm just like, ooh, ouch. Like, how are the bodybuilders coping right now? You know, all those guys who are like, I eat 36 eggs a day, and here eating breakfast, I'm eating a 36 egg scramble and a bowl of rice. Won't somebody think of the poor bodybuilders? $8.50? Sheesh. Eggs are like $6 here now, which is still pretty high. Just wait until a Canadian comes in and starts making fun of us. Like, oh yeah, I just picked up a whole carton of eggs for about $2.79 American. Like, don't rub my face in it. Oh yeah, I picked up a whole 30 pack at Costco. It was only about $10.50 there, eh? I feel very attacked right now. Well, that's how I knew. You told me. We've got an inspiring presentation later. This was an idea for a presentation that I've been cooking up for a little while. And I think you'll find it enjoyable. I'm going to talk about the importance of inspiration, because I get a lot of questions about how do I feel more motivated. I get a lot of motivation questions. Motivation, I don't feel motivated, I got no motivation. How do I get motivation? Maybe what we need is something just a little different. Maybe what we need is a little bit of inspiration. It's different from motivation, but it accomplishes a similar goal. And I think it's pretty profound how it works. So we're going to talk all about inspiration today. We're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about how we can trace it back through history. You know, looking at who inspired the people that inspired you and the people who inspired them. You can trace that line back all the way. We're going to talk about how to cultivate more inspiration in your life. And we'll also talk how to be more inspiring. Nothing inspires me anymore? Well then shit, Dean, this is a perfect presentation. Right on time. What are the chances? What are the chances? The exact presentation that you needed at the exact time that you needed it. How often does that happen? What are the odds? The thing about inspiration is that it's a great cure for burnout. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling like you're lacking motivation, sometimes what you need is actually inspiration. See, like motivation, it can be very external. I just don't care about my life anymore. Is that something that you want to change? Does it bother you to feel that way? Because you're here and you're talking about it, and that to me says, I don't like this, I want this to change, this is bothersome to me. Otherwise, why talk about it? Tired of trying and want everything to stop? What would you like me to say? Let's say that somebody that you cared about came up to you and said that to you. What would you say? Not sure? Well, think about it. Think about it. You've got people that you care about, right? Let's say one of them came up to you and said that to you. Take some time to think about it. I want you to recognize that these thoughts that you're having are thoughts that you could have just as easily kept to yourself. If anything, it would actually probably be easier to just keep it to yourself. But you didn't, which to me says you didn't want to keep it to yourself, you wanted to talk about it, and you want to feel better. It's just hard to think right now? Then just be. Don't try to force it. Just be. Just exist in this moment. That's all you gotta do. The Fanciest Nancy, thank you for resubscribing, by the way, during the intro there, 49 minutes ago. For 6 months. Thank you. So we've got a good presentation lined up. Very positive, very uplifting. It's what I felt was what we needed today. And so that's why we got this one on this one's on the lineup. For now, let's take a look in the box. Less than 3. Well, thank you. Less than 3, back at you. Right back at you, friend. Speaking of inspiration, I've been watching a series called The Rookie, and it's really been inspiring me to feel more confident and helping with the depression. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. You can draw inspiration from just about anything. It can be from a book, it can be from a TV show, it can be from somebody in your real life, you know, a teacher, a friend, a family member, or a stranger. Anybody, anything can inspire you if you know how to look at it. These are the types of moments, and these are the types of shows that get you through a dark time in your life, and they'll always hold a special place in your heart for that reason. You know, I feel like we've all got one. Like, how about this? Let's share a little bit. What's something that you turn to? Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a show, Whenever it feels like nothing else is working. You know, the old comfort. What do you turn to in those moments? I would say that it's a good thing that you got that motivation. You got that inspiration. You'd love to hear it. Music, definitely. Oh yeah, for me it's like, let's put on Born This Way. Inspiration really is everywhere when you know what you're looking for. Whether it's, you know, you see a bird out in wilderness and it's out, you know, picking up twigs and making its nest and finding food to feed its babies, and you know, it's just working around the clock. It's like, that shit's inspiring. Like, you go get him, little dude. Go get him. Or maybe you're walking down the street and you see a crack in the sidewalk. And in that crack in the sidewalk, a little bit of life emerges. There's just enough room for some grass to grow. The more closely you look, the more life you see. That shit inspires me. The hilarious things I hear little kids say in the grocery store. Ah, yes, a reminder that whimsy still exists. That shit inspires me. How about you? Yes, you. Each and every one of you, for showing up here today, for still being in it, for not giving up, for still being here. That inspires me. Getting better day by day. You know, and sometimes what you will definitely notice is that the progress is not linear. Because in some areas you may improve, and then in other areas you might feel like I'm struggling more, but ultimately you're trending upwards. You know, it's like when you think of like the line of a stock market, and it kind of goes up and down, but it kind of goes up and down in an upward direction. It's more like that. Because some days might just feel like a total wash. You're like, I don't get it. I was feeling great. I was motivated. I was energetic. I was active. I was social. And now I feel like shit and I'm not really sure why. Just take that day. If you have a bad day, give up. Go home. Go to sleep. Tomorrow is another day. Some days are fucked and cannot be unfucked. If you have a day that is fucked beyond repair, that is the universe sending you a message. Listen to the universe. Go home. Go to sleep. Try again tomorrow. I'll never figure anything out. Well, you got that figured out at least. It takes many wise people, it takes a long time to come to that realization. The more you learn, the more you realize that you don't learn. The more you realize that there is stuff that I will not know. It's always going to be a work in progress. I'm always going to feel like I'm improving. I'm never going to be 100% certain that I'm doing the right thing, and that's okay. I'm going to accept that discomfort. I'm going to be certain that there will always be some uncertainty. But that shouldn't stop us from trying anyway. See how far we can go. Alright, this one coming up in the question box, this one's kind of heavy. Just giving you a heads up. This one's a little heavy. Now I do want to say, just off of the get-go, if you are feeling suicidal, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed, please, I beg of you, talk to somebody about it. Not just me, I'm just some guy on the internet. There's all sorts of resources, all sorts of hotlines. Give one a try. I beg of you. I don't understand why I can't just die. Well, it's not your time yet, is why. Anything work-related, I feel so dumb, stupid, and stuck. It's been this way for years. My personal life is fucking garbage and I can't fix anything. I wish I could get myself to attempt, but for some reason I can't. Any insight? Listen to the fact that you can't do it. That's the loudest and clearest message that you need right now is there's a part of me that's saying no. That's the part of you need to listen to. That's your self-preservation talking. That's your hope talking. But it's so muffled. And it's so drowned out because of all the chaos and all the sadness, all the loneliness, that grief. But it's still in there, and it's fighting for your fucking life. Dig it out. Listen to it. Rebuild that fire, brother. If you've been this way for years, who are we talking to about it? If this is something, I'm being very direct right now. You know, I'm no beating around the bush. If it's been this way for years, who have we talked to about it? These aren't the types of things that we have to get through all alone. Whether out of, pride or embarrassment or shame or whatever. Help is available. What help have we accessed? What help have we asked for? If you have even just one good day ahead of you, it's worth sticking around for it. It'll make all the other days worthwhile. Guarantee it. I'm not going to give up on you, so please don't give up on yourself. Do people with suicidal thoughts tend to be risk takers or the opposite? It depends. It depends. You know, some of them, we all cope with those thoughts in different ways. Some of us curl up into a ball and lay in bed and don't do much. Some of us drive around in our car at 120 miles an hour and, you know, just do other reckless, careless things. Those types of feelings, you know, they're pretty unique to the individual experiencing them, but there are some trends, you know, and it either tends to be very depressive. Sometimes it can be more of like a manic, self-destructive drive. Sometimes it's just more of like a passive ambivalence. You're just kind of somewhere in the middle. What I found to be helpful was instead of directing that anger about, because having those types of thoughts, it kind of makes you uncomfortable, it kind of makes you angry, it kind of like fucks with your head. What I found to be helpful was instead of directing those feelings onto myself and making myself feel worse for having those thoughts, I redirected that energy and those thoughts onto the thoughts themselves. I got angry at those thoughts. I started fighting back against those thoughts. And guess what? I won. Is getting a psych evaluation easy? Yeah, it's not that hard. My therapist recommended it, but I'm wondering what the process is and if I can get one without having a local primary care doctor yet. Yes, you should be able to. Why would a psych evaluation help me, and how many mental conditions do they check for? Thank you. Well, most evaluations are pretty long, you know, it might take a couple hours, and so here's the thing. Here's how they would work. It's kind of like an interview, but it's like a structured interview. They're going to ask you questions, they're going to follow up on those questions for more details so they can get as clear of a picture as they can about the state of your mind. And so it's not really about like checking for whether or not there are certain conditions. It's more of just like figuring out all of the symptoms that you're dealing with, how long you've been dealing with those symptoms, how impactful they are to your life, how you've been coping with those symptoms and that kind of stuff. Because if you have all of that information, then you can come up with a diagnosis. So it might not necessarily be like I'm trying to rule a bunch of stuff out, but there will be moments where they might ask you questions like, have you ever seen anything that you knew wasn't there? Have you ever heard anything that you knew wasn't there? You know, they're just testing, they're like your perception of reality and stuff. The MMPI is a personality test. You're not going to get an MMPI at a psych eval. The MMPI itself is like 600 questions, and they don't normally give them out that commonly just because it is so fucking long. But that it's a measure of your personality on different dimensions. I had to take one for school, and then I had to hand grade it. They have a machine that grades it, but we didn't get to. We had to learn the old-fashioned way. We had to grade them by hand, and it's like 600 and something questions. It sucked. But yeah, I got to find out in detail just how crazy I was. No surprise. So yeah, why would a psych evaluation help you? That's a good question. You're already in therapy. So why would a psych eval help you? That's a good question. Is it for insurance purposes? Do you need a certain diagnosis on your insurance to be able to get coverage? Or maybe there's something that you might be looking to get a prescription for, or medication for, in which case that you still wouldn't necessarily need a psychological evaluation unless they're going to prescribe you something like pretty heavy duty. I find it kind of interesting that your therapist recommended it, because now I'm kind of curious as like why because normally it's something that you get before you would go to therapy, or it's something that you would get when you're kind of like entering mental health treatment, just to kind of assess what it is that you're dealing with and what it is that they're trying to treat you for. Anyway, if you're in therapy already, then it's not all that much different, except it'll be more structured and they're just going to ask you more direct questions just to try to like figure out what to diagnose you with. So I guess I would talk to your therapist about why they want you to do one, what they think it would do for you. If it's for insurance purposes, if it's for treatment purposes, because you're in therapy already, right? It's like you've already been doing therapy. Do you need to get evaluated to find out what your specific diagnosis is, or can you just continue to do therapy and continue to work on your symptoms? I don't know. I would talk to, I would talk to your treatment team about it and just see what they say. It's okay to ask questions. If they recommend something, just be like, "No, why would you recommend that?" Just so that you can know, not because you're trying to like say that they're wrong or something. You just like, but no, getting a psych evaluation isn't hard. In fact, your therapist might be able to refer you or, find somebody that can do it. Normally, you see somebody who specializes in just doing intakes. Sometimes therapists will do it themselves, if they have the credentials to do that. But no, it's not hard. They do them all the time. And it just takes a couple hours, and you just go through and answer a bunch of questions. I would say it probably takes between an hour and 3 hours, depending on how much there is to unpack. If you're not sure how to get one, I would talk to your therapist and see if they could recommend a place, or, if they could recommend somebody to do that. That's my first thought. I'm struggling. Bring it in, friend. We're here for you. You're in the right place. I feel entirely unworthy and undeserving of love. This is one of those depressive thoughts that you want to recognize as a depressive thought, and then you want to invert it and think the opposite of that thing. Depression can be a tool if you learn how to interpret it. If you can recognize it for what it is and then recognize what its inversion is or what the opposite thought is. I am entirely worthy and entirely deserving of love. Because everyone is. Every living thing is. I'll circle back around to that because this was the rationale that I had, and this was what helped me to change my mind about this type of feeling. Because this is something I struggled with as well, but we'll get back to it. Let me finish the question first. I feel like I contribute nothing and my absence would not be significant in any way. I can't think of a single person I feel like I can go to and talk about this and other issues without having my feelings invalidated or made worse. I don't know how to be loved. Alright, let's address some of these different points. You can learn how to be loved. You can learn to love. This is something that you can do. It's not some sort of binary switch. It's a skill, just like anything else. You can get better at it with practice. Dr. Maggot, incoming Mike Raid. Thanks for the heads up. Thank you for the 4 months, by the way. What helped me to overcome struggles with self-love was this. Recognizing that every living being was worthy of love and deserving of love. Because that's how we heal, that's how we get better, that's how we do better, that's how we make the necessary changes, and that's how we survive, is with love. So guess what? If everything deserves love, that includes me. That includes you. I'm not exempt from that. I am not special. And that I am the only thing that's undeserving of love. Welcome in, Raiders. We were just talking about the importance of self-love. We were talking about the importance of self-love. We've got some questioners who are going through it today, so we're trying to give them a little bit of a boost. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. Find a seat, get comfy. We've got a fun presentation for you later. We're talking about inspiration. We're talking about how to feel more inspired. Because we get a lot of questions about motivation, but I feel like what we often miss is inspiration. We're often seeking motivation, but what we really are craving is to feel inspired. Calm like a Tom, you crazy bastard. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Flexi, thank you for subscribing. I say that as a term of endearment. When I call you a crazy bastard, that's some of the nicest things I could say to a person. I only say that to people that, that's how you know I like you. My mother taught me to not love myself. I just want to say it. I want to be completely straightforward and honest. That's kind of a fucked up thing to do. Would you agree? That's kind of a fucked up thing to do to your kid. Just facts is facts. It's just objectively a fucked up thing to do. Why do you think that would be? Why do you think that that would be what she wants to teach you? Like, what does that say about what she was taught about loving herself? Does she know how to love herself? In an honest and genuine way. 'Cause I would doubt it. She might project it. But it's not something that somebody who genuinely loves and cares about themselves does. If you don't know how to be loved, you gotta work from within. You gotta learn how to love yourself first. If you learn how to love yourself, then you can start actually welcoming in and accepting the love that other people are trying to give you. But until you learn how to do that, it's like the gate's closed. There's no room. I gotta get my stuff put away. I gotta get my stuff organized. before I can allow these new boxes to come in. Loving yourself, glad that we can be here to see an expert at it. Well, they were just watching you, so... No, I have a love-hate relationship with myself because it's important to keep balance in all things, but we're not ready for that lesson yet. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Sorry I'm late. I was watching Dr. K talk to Dr. Michael Sue about psychedelics. Really cool discussion. Have either of them done psychedelics? One, both, or Michael has? Okay, good. See, my big hang-up with doctors talking about psychedelics is that for the longest time, none of them had fucking done them. You get all these doctors, all these researchers, and they're just like, we are noticing that there are some significant improvements in our patients that are dealing with the struggles of grief and depression and PTSD in these psychedelic-assisted therapies. It's like, well, have you tried it? Well, no, of course not. I'm just a researcher. It's like a chef never tasting the food they make. Exactly. Exactly. I feel like doing psychedelics has made me a better therapist. It's made me a better psychologist. I want to try ketamine guided therapy, but it's prohibitively expensive still. I've heard some, like, the thing about ketamine treatments is you can get ketamine treatments legally in all 50 states. Ketamine is legal in all 50 states, and they will use it for a treatment of depression. I've heard that in some places it's just like they put you in a hospital room, they send you into a K-hole, and then they send you on your way. So you're just doing this whole thing just in a hospital room. It's crazy. I know. Doesn't that sound like a nightmare? Believe me, when you're tripping balls, the last place in the entire fucking world you want to be, outside of a mental hospital, would be a regular hospital. A psychological facility would definitely be the worst place to be when you're tripping balls. A regular hospital would be probably a little less worse. Police station probably falls somewhere in between. That's what my friend said they did for his treatments. No guidance, just K-hole and go home. I would go so far as to say that's irresponsible. After a psychedelic experience, there's an essential component of your treatment, and it's called integration. We need to sit down and talk about what the fuck was that just happened? What the fuck was that shit? I was floating inside of a goddamn geometric pattern that extended for infinity, and I was a part of that thing, and it was a part of me. And it was also the living embodiment of love, and I felt like I had always been there, and I was returning to a place that I came from at one point, but I had somehow forgotten, but then it somehow felt like how could I ever forget? Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this shit? A really important part about getting benefit out of a psychedelic experience is to sit down and talk to somebody about what the fuck just happened. What the fuck was that shit? They do ketamine treatments at home now. It's something called Mind Bloom, and they just mail it to you. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Actually, I like to see it. I like to see that we're actually using psychedelics to more of a benefit for treating things like depression, but I feel like it's designed and it's in such a fucking capitalist way that it's fucking terrible. Like, how can we do this for as cheap as possible, while also extracting the highest amount of profit? It being able to help depression, a new thought for me. You have to, okay, when you talk about psychedelics, you have to think about them as a tool, a very powerful tool. If done in the right way, in a proper setting, the proper mindset, with somebody there to help guide you through it, you can make the potential risks effectively like near zero, like very low risk of having, you know, a bad trip, as they say. I like to help guide people through K-holes at raves as a flow artist. Do you have those gloves that light up on the fingertips? Because those things are fucking sweet. When you're all like... And then there's just a bunch of people standing around watching it like... There's just like 10 people standing there watching some guy just go like this. It's so funny. I love that shit. Oh, you got whips too? Oh, nice. Love to hear it. Vibes here are so cozy. I needed this after Mike's yelling stream. So like Mike and I, it's like we are balanced in that way. Two sides of the same coin. Two different approaches, one shared mission. Anonymous, thank you for gifting that sub to CBDB. I think I will like this place. We've got good reviews. We've got good reviews. There are people that speak very highly of this place. I think marijuana is a good precursor to psychedelics. True. Weed is also psychoactive. You know, if you can handle a 10 milligram edible, if you're gonna handle a 25 milligram edible, it'd be a good indicator on how you might handle a low dose of a psychedelic. My mind is very resistant to change from constant negative rumination. I'm willing to get better, but my efforts with regular talk therapy haven't been effective. Psychedelics certainly make it easier to form new connections in the brain and see things from different ingrained perspectives, which is why I think it would be helpful for my case. I agree. Now, that is not a recommendation because it's technically not legal, so I'm not actually recommending anything, so don't listen to a single word I say. Don't do a single thing that I say to do. But you are right. You are right. It's kind of like those thoughts in that rumination. It's like tracks running down a mountain in the snow. And those grooves, they get ingrained. You know, from repeated use, they just get further and further entrenched. And then when you do psychedelics, it's like the surface has been paved over. You got fresh powder. You can form new pathways. What I would also say to try is meditation. If you're having a hard time changing your very ingrained thoughts, sitting down and meditating and working through those is also a very helpful way to do that. Experienced meditators will experience moments that are very similar to a psychedelic state. Some of the most intense psychedelic moments that I've experienced were actually when I was entirely sober. I was just very deep in like a meditative. I used to, like, whenever I was really practicing meditation to like see how far and how deep I could go, and I was doing it for like hours at a time. Very interesting. Dancing made no sense to me whatsoever until I smoked weed the first time. Dancing is a physical expression of the joy and the happiness that you feel. It feels physiologically and psychologically good when you are shaking your ass. Now, as long as you're not doing it under duress, as long as someone's not like holding you hostage and like shake it or... That's why dogs wag their tails. Dancing with your hands above your head genuinely is life-changing. I dance with my hands above my head, like Jesus did. Do you have any formal meditation training? I've watched, I'm a big fan of some of the, like, Tibetan masters. You know, I've listened and learned a lot from them. I've also listened to, like, some more, like, new age Western guys, you know, Ram Dass, Alan Watts, that kind of stuff. But the thing about meditation is that it's something that you learn to do on your own. It's your relationship with your brain. It's something that can't really be taught to you. Like somebody can light the path for you, but you have to be the one to take those steps. If one is afraid to dance, are they afraid to be seen happy? Well, now you're cooking. Now you're onto something. One of the reasons why a lot of people might be inhibited to express their joy is they were made to feel shameful for doing so earlier in life. Now, what are you so happy about? Now, what are you smiling about? Oh, I'll give you something to smile about. You know, a lot of people might have been made to feel guilt or shame for showing joy and excitement. You know, and maybe it wasn't even at the home. Maybe it was at school. You know, like maybe you were really excited about something and then you got made fun of for it. I just want you to take a moment to realize the absurdity of that predicament. Why wouldn't I want people to see me happy? I want them to see me unhappy? I want them to see how miserable I am? Maybe I just need to feel heard. Maybe I need to feel validated. Maybe I need people to understand me and I'm suffering right now and I'm trying to show it to them. I don't know. My sister bullied me for enjoying things. Siblings, what can I say? That's where, if that's the case, that's where inner child work is actually very impactful, very helpful. Hi. Oh, hi. Hello. Can you give me some motivation to keep going on this excruciating job search journey? Haha! I'm going to keep going, but I just need some motivation / reassurance that the right job will come, as I feel I am slowly starting to lose the motivation. Be an active part of that process, follow up on those applications. Finesse them a little bit. Do you want... Can I offer you some morally gray advice? Can I offer you some morally gray job advice? Sometimes you can finesse your way into an interview by making them think that they were supposed to interview you. It's morally gray advice, but, it's a morally gray universe, so use it at your own discretion. Oh, hi, yes. I was calling because I submitted an application and then I got a call and I think they wanted to schedule a time for me to come in for an interview, and so I'm calling you back on that. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it works. I don't know. You could always just claim ignorance and be like, oh, I got the wrong number. Oh, I'm so sorry. I called the wrong place. I've actually applied to a few different places. My bad. If you really want to go all in, now this one's high risk, high reward, but this one can work. Just show up at the place, dressed and prepared for an interview, and then tell them at the front desk, oh yes, hi, my name is my name, and I have an interview today, and it's in 15 minutes from when you show up. They just might be able to interview you on the spot. Or maybe they might set something up for later in the week. Maybe they'll just assume that they forgot and they didn't write it down or didn't schedule it. I did show up at the wrong place for an interview and got a job anyway once. See, it works. It works. Sometimes just being there in person is so much different than just being some anonymous random person on the internet who's applying for this job. They've actually got a face to put to your name. What I would do is, whenever I was applying for jobs, I would kind of put the pressure on them a little bit. So this is what I would do. I apply to the job, and then I wait a day or two, and then I call them, and then I say, oh yes, hi, I was calling to, I give them my name, I give them my information, let them know I applied, and I'm calling to see about the possibility of setting up an interview. So if you're not going to call me and invite me for an interview, I'm going to call you and ask for one. That's what I used to do. If you want to get a job, you got to learn how to think like a recruiter. You got to learn how to think like the person that does the interviewing, that does the hiring. And you got to, and if there's certain, if you show drive and you show initiative, it's like that can be a big win. Like that can get you into some jobs. Right? I feel like eventually most of us are just going to get placed by robots anyway, so the sooner that we can just get UBI and not have to worry about, you know, working a meaningless job just to buy food and shelter. A follow-up email after an interview has done me some good. You know, sometimes just showing initiative, showing that you're interested, showing that you're taking it seriously can set you apart from other candidates. You know, you might have more credentials and you might have more experience, but you might get outpicked by the person who shows more drive and initiative. You know, maybe they'd be willing to hire that person instead, probably because they can also pay them less. So... And also, another important tip of applying to jobs is have different copies of your resume depending on the type of job that you're applying for, because sometimes you might need to highlight certain skill sets over other skill sets. Sometimes you might want to mention your credentials. Sometimes you might want to leave out your credentials because they might think you're overqualified and not hire you because of it. So just keep that in mind too. I've heard people tell me that they didn't get jobs because they were overqualified. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You'll find a good job. You haven't found it yet because you're still working on it. You'll find something good. You'll find something good. Duolingo died? Duolingo died? What? The bird? He dies by Cybertruck? He's dead? They killed the Duolingo bird. Well. Oh. Is this like marketing? Yes, this is a marketing to get people to reinstall Duolingo. I'm getting burnt out at work. I wish I could quit, but my family depends on the income. Are there any strategies to cope that you would recommend? I can only detach for so long, and sometimes going to work feels like being in hell. When we're feeling burnt out at work, it's really important that we take a look at what we're doing outside of work. You know, do we have enough time to properly recuperate? Do we have that time we need to rest and unwind and actually enjoy life? Or are there some ways at work that maybe we're working too hard? You know, maybe we need to reassess just how much effort we're putting in. Another thing to consider is, you know, maybe it's a good time for a switch. You know, while you have a job, you can still be actively looking for something different if you feel like there's something that might suit you a little bit better. It's easier to get a job when you have a job. Because the people that hire people, the recruiters or, whoever it is that's doing the interviews, when they look and they see, oh, you're actually currently employed, that's a good thing. Because somebody else interviewed you, somebody else checked your background and gave you a sniff test and found out that you were hireable, and that's a load off their mind. Whenever you're applying to places and you don't currently have a job, they're always going to be like, why? Can you explain this gap in your resume? No. I guess what I would also say is, just do the bare minimum at work. Don't work any harder than you have to. Can you explain the gap in your resume? That's classified. I think, questioner, you're just feeling kind of stuck, and that's why you're getting burned out. Maybe it's getting a little bit too monotonous, a little bit too repetitive, maybe it's leaving you feeling a little bit drained. It's a good time to take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture and see what sort of adjustments or, rearrangements we need. I go with independent contractors. That's a good one. If there's a gap in your resume, just say you were self-employed. Just make some shit up. Say that you were selling crafts at the craft fair. Say that you had an online store and you flipped shit on eBay. Just make something up. This gap in my resume? Oh, actually, at that time, I was bringing in a lot of money. I was going around to thrift stores and antique stores, and I was buying, these certain types of items, and then I was reselling them online for a profit. And for a while there, I was able to sustain myself on that. But, as the market goes, the popularity and the price just kind of stagnated, and so I wasn't able to continue doing that to make a living. But you know what? It was a great thing that I was able to do for a while. I really enjoyed it. And I would say, that really shows that I've got a real entrepreneurial spirit. I've got a real can-do attitude. I can always find a way. See, I'm just making shit up. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. What type of person should not try shrooms? Somebody who's actively experiencing like a mental health crisis is probably not a good idea. You want to be in a relatively stable place. Now, you could still be depressed, like you could still be anxious, but I mean like relatively stable. You don't feel like you're teetering on the edge of collapse, or you're just like teetering on the edge of a mental breakdown or something. I would also say that anybody who has a history of violence, if you're a violent individual, maybe not a good idea. Because one of the things that I have observed in studying this field of research is psychedelics can take a sad person and make them into a happier person. They can also take a really psychotic, messed up individual and make them even more messed up and more psychotic. Take the case of Whitey Bulger. He was a notorious mob boss who was in the MK Ultra experiments, and that was a whole can of worms in and of itself, but he was repeatedly dosed with psychedelics over and over. And it basically it made him just absolutely terrible. It made him a worse sociopathic criminal than he already was. No Brain, thank you for the 10 months. You're the best, man, and so is this community. Thank you for being a part of it. Scout, are you okay? She's down here wagging her tail, making some noises. When it comes to the use of psychedelics for treating mental health, right now the research is more focused on stuff like trauma and depression and grief, because those are relatively safe conditions to treat with psychedelics. You run a very minimal risk. But I would say that the potential definitely exists to treat things beyond that. It's just that, we're not really there yet as far as the research and the understanding. But I would say that the potential for treatment for a lot of different things is very high. We just need more time to research and understand how to effectively do that. There are two really important things to take into consideration before dealing with a psychedelic, and that is set and setting. Set refers to the mindset that you have going in, and setting refers to the physical environment that you do it in. You want your mindset to be optimistic. You want there to be, you want to, like, a lot of the psychedelic assisted therapies will have regular therapy as like a lead up to it, just to kind of get you into that place and to kind of figure out if this is a good fit for you. Scout, do you need to get out of... She's just whining to leave the room. Hold on. Here. Okay, I'm coming. You want to go too? She didn't want to hang out with us. Try not to take it personally. A room appeared. I thought we were in space. We are in space. This is just a portal that leads into that room. That's how portals work. I feel like such a fucking loser for living with my parents in my 20s, even though, like, I know it's pretty common / normal, especially with how the housing market is right now, but I can't help but feel like I'm behind in life, and it makes me feel like shit. I don't know. Ugh. You feel bad because of the propaganda that you have been exposed to that makes you feel like you are a failure if you aren't out on your own and successful and thriving and owning your own property by the time you're 18. We need to you're not wrong to have this frustration. I just want to say, you're not wrong to be frustrated. You're actually right to be frustrated, but you're taking out your frustration on the wrong target. You're directing it onto yourself. You're not the one that's responsible for this system being as fucked up and as shitty as it is. You need to direct that frustration onto the system. Because if you're just directing it onto yourself, then you're not helping yourself, you're not helping anything to change, you're not helping, motivate anybody to make the system better. be grateful that you have the opportunity to have a place to stay at all. You know, a lot of people are dealt a much rougher hand. You know, this is an opportunity. You know, it's an opportunity to save up some money. It's an opportunity to... Like, I did it. After I graduated college, I moved back in with my parents for a little while until I found a place to rent with some of my friends. It's totally normal. Probably what you'll have to do to transition out of this is get a place that you rent with some other people, and then you get to experience the fun chapter of life that is dealing with roommates. My advice to you is don't become roommates with anybody that you want to be friends with forever. If you're okay with some people and you're okay with like living with them and you're okay with not being friends with them in 5 years, then that's a good person to be a roommate with. But if you want to be friends with somebody forever, you know, this is a friend you want to hold on to for the rest of your life, for the love of God, don't live with them. You're not a loser. The system has failed you, it's failed me, it's failed all of us. That's not your responsibility, it's not your fault. The real losers are the ones that made this fucked up, twisted system that we all have to participate in. Those are the real losers. That's where we should really direct that frustration, not onto ourselves. So, no need to beat yourself up. Would need to beat yourself up, my friend. Let's redirect that frustration onto the people that are actually responsible for the conditions that we're living in. We need more co-ops, is what we need. We need more like units full of condos or apartments, and then everybody who lives in that building owns their unit, and so collectively you all own that building together, instead of all of you paying a property manager to just reap income off of you while not actually doing anything. I feel like that's definitely probably going to be a rising trend in the next few years. It's pretty common in other parts of the world. It's not super common here in the United States, but doesn't mean we can't do it. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Alrighty, party people. We ready for an inspiring slideshow? Ready for a little bit of inspiration? Also, one more thing that I wanted to say before we move on, and this goes back to that last question we had, just the idea of living with your parents. In many parts of the world, it's actually the norm to have multi-generational households. You'll see parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, all under one roof. It's much more common in other parts of the world. It's not seen as a bad thing. It's just what's normal. Part of the reason why you're feeling so bad about it is because the way that we're taught is to feel that you're doing something wrong by not moving out on your own when you're 18, because that's what you're supposed to do. It's not really possible anymore. You can't go down to the bank with your pay stub from your job at the grocery store and get a loan for $15,000 that'll buy you an entire fucking house. It doesn't work that way anymore. The whole system's fucked. They think that you can pay $2,000 a month in rent, but you can't afford a mortgage payment of, $1,000 or $1,500. How are you supposed to do the deed, though, with the parents in the next room? Get creative. Make a reservation for them at a restaurant. Say, hey, go out and have some fun. You guys deserve a date night. I don't know, do the same thing you did in high school. Alright, today we're talking about inspiration. I was feeling inspired to put this into a presentation. Because we often get a lot of questions about motivation. A lot of people write into me or ask questions about, I don't feel motivated. How can I feel more motivated? What can I, right? And I feel like motivation comes and goes, but inspiration is something different. It achieves a similar goal to what we're looking for with motivation, but in some ways it's like on a deeper, more personal level. It's something much more like near and dear to us. So that's what we're talking about today. Let's see how many slides we can get through before I poop my pants. So, to start off, let's define it. What is inspiration? Inspiration is the spark that ignites your creativity, your passion, and leads you into action. Oftentimes, it arrives unexpectedly. But what it does is it gives us a sense of purpose and direction. Inspiration is different from motivation. Motivation is often driven by external rewards, external pressures, whereas inspiration often feels organic. It feels intrinsic. It stems from something deep within us. Just take a moment to think about the feelings. They're distinct in how they feel. They're not quite the same. And when you think about inspiration, it really does strike at something very deep within you. Inspiration can come from people, it can come from our experiences, it can come from art, it can come from nature, it can come from an idea. Sometimes it can come when we least expect it, or in unexpected places. A powerful conversation, a sudden realization, a moment of beauty. In my experience, when you start to seek out inspiration more, you'll find it in more places. It'll become more obvious. It'll stand out more. At least that's what I think. You get a nose for it. So why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why is it important? Inspiration is what helps to drive our personal growth. It leads us to innovate. It helps us to push boundaries, to think in new ways, and to pursue meaningful goals. Inspiration is also really important when it comes to overcoming feelings of stagnation or feelings of burnout. that renewed energy, that sense of excitement that we get when we're feeling stuck and uninspired, it can really help to get you out of it. Okay, let's think about this for a second. Motivation is kind of like the fire that you build. Like, motivation is something that you build up, but inspiration is the spark that ignites it. I think that's a good understanding of it. Inspiration can also have some deeply profound and personal effects on us. It can remind us why we care about something. It can make it easier to navigate challenges. And it can give these setbacks that we face a sense of meaning. You know, we can recognize our progression and our growth, help us to become more resilient, really find our sense of purpose. Something I want you to think about for a minute. I want you to trace your inspiration back. I want you to recognize something. Inspiration does not exist in isolation. It's something that we pass down through people and through time. Everyone that inspires you was inspired by someone else. So let's take a moment to consider this ripple effect. That unbroken thread. How far back does inspiration travel? I'm thinking all the way back. There's like an unbroken thread. An unbroken thread of inspiration connecting us today to the first man-ape to pick up a stick and to say, I could use this for something. I could bonk somebody over the head with it. It's kind of pointy, maybe I could poke somebody with it. Or maybe the first person to take a hunk of meat and put it in the fire. It smells good. Are you familiar with the work of Randall Collins? No, but that sounds interesting what you're talking about there. I'm also a fan of the concept of emotional energy. You know, you've got a balance. You know, there's a give and a take, and you can feel drained and you can feel recharged, and it's an important thing to keep in consideration. Unbroken, but possibly jumps whole generations. Oh no, absolutely. Like, it doesn't have to be passed down from generation to generation. Like, I can get inspired by somebody who lived hundreds of years ago. I could look back through history and get inspired by figures from ancient history. And so it doesn't need to be linear, but it is interconnected. They turned off my power and gas again, so I had to pay like $600 to get them back on just now. You need to get that shit on autopay, girl. You need to get that shit on autopay today. I wonder if inspiration is intrinsically a human trait. Can animals feel this? Good question. I would say probably. I would say that there are definitely some animals that could, because there are animals that engage in social learning. You know, they watch other animals do stuff and then they're able to learn how to do it by watching them do it. And so in a way, that's inspiration. There are also some animals that have more political motivations, and they interact in ways and they have their own social structures that we can't really fully understand. Crows have funerals, and rooks have parliaments. Elephants mourn their dead. There's definitely like some types of intelligence, like emotional intelligence, are like much more deeply seated within our psyche. And they're a lot more visible in some animals. They feel less socially inhibited. Dr. Maggot, thank you for gifting that sub. Just take a moment to consider what sort of ideas, values, and traits you have inherited from those that came before you. Maybe some specific things come to mind, but just consider the generality of it for a moment. Just consider like the collective whole of all of the things that you have learned. All of your teachers, all of your role models, all of your inspiration. Maybe this person is still alive. Maybe this person lived hundreds of years ago. So you don't need to think about anything specific. I just want you to consider for a moment that ripple of how inspiration is integral to the human experience. All of the things that we're able to learn from each other and all of the ways that we're able to motivate each other. And there's something else I want you to think about. How might you, without you knowing, might be a part of this lineage for someone else? You have undoubtedly inspired others in ways that you might not fully understand. There's a big web, and you are in it somewhere. You're a node on that web. The idea of fairness and cooperation comes to mind. An idea that has been passed down through the generations. In Russian, inspiration is Vidovny. Vidovny. Literally meaning the process of inhaling. Oh, neat. Kind of like how to grok is to drink. I want to give you an example of a lineage of inspiration. Martin Luther King I'm gonna give you a little bit of an example. Martin Luther King was deeply influenced by the works of Gandhi, his principles of nonviolent resistance. You saw now I'm not gonna we're not gonna split hairs here. We're not gonna split hairs here because I know that MLK understood that, nonviolent resistance isn't the only thing to do, but he was still undoubtedly inspired by it and did utilize these concepts. But we're not gonna split hairs today. We're just tracing back inspiration. So Gandhi, where did he get inspired from? Gandhi drew heavily from the works of Leo Tolstoy and his writings on peace and moral living. Leo Tolstoy, the author of some of the most famous books of human history, some of the most famous novels. You ever heard of a book by the name of War and Peace? That's the guy. And then tracing that inspiration back further, Tolstoy was influenced by religious and philosophical teachings on nonviolence and human equality. So you can see that thread and that connection. The chain of inspiration is what shows us how ideas can evolve and help shape the world. Didn't it get banned in Florida? War and Peace? I don't know. Florida has banned like how many books now at this point? Florida leads the nation in the most banned books. Texas is number 2. Hold on, I want to look real quick. I'm just curious. Whenever there's a banned book list, that's just a synonym for a good reading list. Whenever a book is banned, it's very rarely... Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes some bad books get banned and they're just, like, not that good. So a lot of these are about sexuality or femininity or gender identity. Also, you have books that are anti-war, like Slaughterhouse-Five. Like, why would you remove Slaughterhouse-Five? Slaughterhouse-Five is a great book, and it teaches you about the horrors of war from a first-person perspective, and it talks about the tragedy of the firebombing of Dresden. That's the way she goes. Just hundreds and hundreds of books. It's like, wow, you really want your people to be stupid, don't you? Well, yes, that's the point. That's why we ban books. They don't ban books because they want you to be smarter. They ban books because they want you to be stupider. They're gonna ban Fahrenheit 451 next. The irony of that, the irony there is actually, all right, it's time for a little bit of a interactive component here. Let's talk about who inspires you. Name someone who inspires you. This could be somebody from your personal life. This could be an artist. This could be a musician. This could be, you know, a political figure. This could be a philosopher. This could be anybody throughout all of human history. But in some way, shape, or form, they have inspired you. Who? I inspire me, I'm pretty dope. And now you sound like your mom. I'm sorry, that was me getting too personal. It's a joke. I'm joking. I'm joking. You're laughing because you know it's true. Me? Guess again. Follow up. Follow up. Who inspired them? What we're doing today is we are tracing back inspiration. We're trying to find more inspiration, and a good way to do that is to take a look. Who inspired the people that inspired you? That's a good question. I should ask him. Now you're talking. This is a top 10 conversation I have with a parent. You have a good relationship with an inspirational parent. That moment where you sit down and you talk about the people that have inspired them, it's like that's gonna make it to the top of the list of all-time impactful conversations you've ever had with this person. I'll give you a good example of, like, if you think about music or like musicians that inspire you, you can pretty easily find out who inspired them. You know, they might have interviews where they talk about it, or it might be present in the music itself. You know, they might have a certain sound that they capture that's reminiscent of the sound of the person that inspired them. I just think that this is a good way for you to find more inspiration. To trace that inspiration back to where it originally came from. Isn't this a fun conversation? Isn't this a fun conversation? I've been inspired by streamers like Casey. I am inspired by Casey. I love that she stands up to sexist pigs. If you sit down and do some research, because a lot of this you might be able to find out just by searching online, you can actually trace that line of lineage, that lineage of inspiration, you can trace it back through history. This is just a fun mental exercise that can help you to feel more inspired if you aren't feeling especially inspired. This is just something that I've been doing lately, and I find it to be a good use of my time instead of ruminating on stuff that I don't really have any power to change. I think Casey was inspired a lot by her grandma. You know, Casey has had a lot of, you know, strong, independent women in her family to look up to. A lot of free-spirited people. Take a moment to just visualize that unbroken thread of inspiration that runs throughout our entire history. Just take a moment to just let that sink in. That torch that has been passed down. kind of cool to think about. It's kind of cool to think about, especially when you're feeling a little bit less than optimistic about the human race. When you're feeling a little bit nihilistic. What sort of common themes emerge when you think about these unbroken threads of inspiration? I would say that people can be inspired in ways that benefit others, and people can also be inspired in ways that might be less than good. Inspiration is inspiration. Some people find inspiration in sources where they probably should not find inspiration, but it's inspiration nonetheless. I would say that generally speaking, the common themes that emerge are, peaceful, nonviolent. We want to be kind and compassionate and open and honest. We want to do the right thing. You can also understand the importance of things like heritage and tradition. Just a fun thing to think about. Humanity. Compassion and empathy are so important. I feel like it's somewhat lost nowadays. No, it's still there. It's just that they don't really give us much time or leave us with much energy to be able to do that. If we had our needs met, you better believe we'd have more space in our life for empathy. If we didn't worry so much about having to work nonstop to be able to survive, then we would have more room in our life for compassion. They do that on purpose. They don't want to leave you with anything. They want to take everything that they can get. All right. Let's take a moment. Let's recognize our influence. Something that we don't often realize is when we are an inspiration to others. Maybe it was for good reasons. Maybe it was, maybe we inspired people because we did the wrong thing. We're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to repeat their mistake. But regardless of what we did to warrant that inspiration exists nonetheless. And this is something that we don't often realize. For the sake of positivity, we'll keep it positive today. We're talking about those small acts of kindness, those moments of perseverance, the way that we express our creativity. These can all deeply impact those around us. You never know what type of day a person is having. And maybe that small act of kindness is what just really helps to give them that boost that they need. You never know. Life is all about growing closer. It's all about strengthening our connections. It's about sharing. It's about caring for one another. This is how we make it as a species. This is how we survive. Is by helping each other, understanding each other better. And mutual inspiration is an important part of doing that. Because inspiration can be mutual. It's not a one-way transaction. I can inspire you and you can inspire me. And that's the way it should be. Let's take a moment to reflect. Let's take a moment to reflect. How might your actions be influencing others? I'll give you an example. There are people in here who will share their experiences, they will talk about their feelings, they will open up about stuff, and there are people that notice that. There are people that read those words and hear those stories, and they find inspiration in that, and you might never know. They might be watching the VOD, they might be lurking in chat, they might be shy, they might just be listening, they might not be actively typing. So let me just ask you a question. If you have ever found inspiration from someone here, whether it be a show of strength, whether it be an act of courage, whether it be opening up and talking about something difficult, or you were inspired by their resilience, their perseverance, whatever it may have been. Just wanted you to take a moment to think about how you have an impact on others. All right, so inspiration sounds nice, sounds good, sounds tasty. Now I want more. Give me more of it. There have been a few questions like that, but I couldn't tell you what they were. I don't need specifics. Mostly just a yes or no. You know what I mean? Like, I just, less about the specifics. It's more about just the feeling. So, inspiration sounds good. Want more of it. Let's talk about how we can cultivate it. Let's talk about bringing more inspiration to our lives. Nana Soup actually got ahead of us on this one. You got ahead of us on this one. If you want more inspiration in your life, surround yourself with inspiring people. Inspiring people, books, experiences. Look to those stories that uplift you and those ideas that can help to spark inspiration when you need it. This is why it's important to understand where you draw inspiration from so that you know where to go when you need it. Because if you feel like I'm lacking motivation, my fire's about to go out, and you need that spark to help reignite you, that's what inspiration's all about. Another great way to increase your feelings of inspiration are to explore different perspectives. When we practice new ways of thinking and we broaden our understanding, we can find inspiration in unexpected places. Now, I am of the belief that you can find inspiration just about anywhere if you know what to look for. There are chapels everywhere for those with eyes to see. Whether it be a bird building its nest or, a tree standing tall in the winter. We're just, even stuff like holding an item and recognizing that somebody made this, somebody crafted this. You know, inspiration is everywhere if you know what to look for and if you're open to it. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is to just broaden your perspective of what can inspire you. It doesn't even have to be stuff that you're necessarily interested about. Like I could draw inspiration from somebody who's excited about a topic that I have absolutely no interest in learning about or hearing about, but I draw inspiration because of how excited they are and how passionate they are. Reflect on your values and your passions. This is what life's all about. Your values and your passions. Stay connected to what matters most. That's what helps to keep inspiration alive. You know, maybe if we feel like there's not enough room in my life, maybe there's some stuff that I could, do some rearranging. Maybe there's some stuff that no longer suits me. Maybe I've outgrown it. Maybe it's time to let it go. Whenever we free up stuff that we don't need, it makes more room in our mind and in our heart for what actually matters. So anything you don't need, you can let go of. Ordered new PC parts today. Ooh, nice. I just recently put my PC together as well. I was due for some upgrades. But now I have to open my case back up because my fan is hitting a wire and it's making a tapping sound and it's gonna drive me crazy. I'm over here telltale hearting myself. Alright, next one. Keep a journal of inspiring moments. As we've said time and time again, one of the best ways to really make a note of something is to make a note of that thing. Write that shit down. Thoughts are kind of nebulous. Thoughts are kind of like a cloud. You know? You never know what's going to be going on up there. It's easy for stuff to get lost and misplaced and, prioritize things. Sometimes taking that and put it into words can make it much more easy to comprehend and digest. It also makes it easier to revisit and rekindle. So it makes a memo. It's something that we can go back to and revisit. Also, something very important to remember, take breaks. Give yourself time to recharge. Inspiration really hits whenever we allow ourselves to just rest and reset. What if I misplace those notes as easily as the thoughts in my head? Well, hopefully somebody who needed to read them found them. Option 2 would be to keep them somewhere where you know you won't lose them. Taking breaks is really important because it actually helps you to be more productive when you take regular breaks. And I know what a lot of people would say is if you want to get more done, do more work. But your productivity kind of flatlines after a little while, and it's important to take that break so that you can actually get your productivity back up to a level that you want it to be. If you're just forcing yourself to work, that's when you get burned out. That's when you get exhausted. That's when you just start feeling like an automaton. So take breaks. Even if it's just for a few minutes, take breaks. Take more breaks than you're taking now, probably. Right. So these are some ways to help cultivate some motivation. Let's talk about being an inspiration to others. What can we do to be more inspiring to other people, the people we care about? Share your experiences and your insights openly. What you say or do may resonate deeply with someone else. You might not even realize it, especially in a place like this. Another way to be inspiring to other people is to encourage and uplift them by recognizing their efforts, celebrating their potential, and reminding them that we are all capable of growth. Remember, lead by example. Passion and authenticity are contagious. And if you live in alignment with your values, you can inspire others just by living authentically, by just being genuine, by being passionate. That can inspire people in ways that you might not even fully recognize. That'll probably inspire people in ways that you may never fully comprehend. Your inspiration today could spark someone else's tomorrow, whether it be a kind gesture, a shared idea, or just by you showing your perseverance. Final thoughts? Let's wrap it up. Let's bring it on home. Inspiration. It is a shared and evolving force. It's one that connects us all, and it influences the world in ways that we may never fully see. We're going to wrap today up with a little bit of discussion. I just want to ask you some questions. How can we make space for more inspiration in our lives? If you need a hint, I just told you a few minutes ago, so just say what I said a few minutes. How can we make space for more inspiration in our lives? Take breaks? Absolutely. Good one. Do you want a hint? Oh, those dogs are really going at it, aren't they? Do you want a hint? You want a hint? Okay, you're making space. And if you need to make space for something, what do you need to do with the stuff that's already there that's taking up space? You've only got so much space, right? You've only got so much. And you're trying to make some space, so what do you need to do with that space that is already occupied? If your closet is full of clothes and you want to buy new clothes, what do you do with the old clothes? Identify the things that you are ready to part with and let those things go. Anything that you don't need, you can let go of. You don't need doubt. You don't need loneliness. One of the best ways to make more space within your mind, within your heart, is to identify the things that you're ready to let go of. What are some things that you're ready to let go of? Some things that no longer serve you. Oh yes, this, let's see, what is this? 5th grade. Oh. I got made fun of in the 5th grade because I wore a t-shirt with a cartoon character on it, and they all laughed at me and said that it was for babies. Maybe I can let that one go. A helpful habit might be, just getting into the habit of asking yourself whenever these types of thoughts or these types of memories and experiences resurface, get into the habit of asking yourself, do I need this? Do I want to keep this? Or do I want to let this go? Now, it's not so easy to just let something go, but the way that you start the process of letting something go is by identifying that it is something that you do want to let go. That's how you start that process. Because once you identify that you want to let it go, you can take a new perspective on it. It's no longer essential. It's no longer something that you need to keep forever. Some embarrassing moment from your adolescence. What are some personal experiences where you felt deeply inspired? Feel free to share these if you would. Feel free to share them if you feel comfortable doing so, but I just want you to think about them. If you don't feel like typing or you don't feel like sharing, that's fine. I just want to get you thinking today. I just want to try to put your brain in a good spot. I feel like a lot of us have been going through it lately, and I just want you to feel a little bit more comfy with where your brain's at right now. What about something in your life that's really hurting you, but you can't seem to want to let go, such as love addiction / codependency? A helpful thing to do in that situation would be to look at it as if it was happening to your best friend. Let's say that your best friend came to you and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something." And they described the exact situation that you find yourself in. What would you want them to do? Somebody that you really care about, somebody that you want to see doing well, you want to see him happy and healthy, what would you tell them to do if they were dealing with that exact same situation? Sometimes that push that we need to really recognize the changes that we need to make is to take a step back from ourselves and look at ourselves not as me, as I know me, just me as a person. Somebody that I care about. Somebody that I want to see doing well. Somebody that I want to see happy and healthy. What would I tell them to do?
And to impress him, takes on multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
I was at my bro's powerlifting meet and I'm overweight myself, so I just started to start diet and exercise and overall be healthier decision-wise. Hell yeah, brother. That's a W. Also, one of the tried and tested ways to lose weight is to just build muscle. Building muscle is a great way to lose weight. I mean, gaining muscle might actually cause you to gain some weight, at least initially, as your muscles are growing. But it takes a lot of that energy that your body was storing as fat, and your body will use it to feed those muscles. Another question for you. How do you think that you might be inspiring others without realizing it? I can guarantee you that there are people in here right now that don't feel like they're an inspiration, but they are. I can guarantee you that. You all inspired me just by being here. You know, you make me want to show up every day and keep doing what I do. I'm here, so that's true. Nothing like a little bit of mutual inspiration. I'm inspired by your knowledge of history. Also, it saves me so much time because it means I don't have to go back and read all those books. You already read them for me. Give me the TLDR. I inspired my dad to get into arts and crafts by showing my art. That's the cutest thing I've ever heard. That's one of the cutest things I've ever heard. Should all read more. I just finished a gigantic book. Of course, it was an epic fantasy novel, but it's over 1,300 pages. What are some things that we can do daily to cultivate and nurture inspiration? You know, this could be stuff as, you know, cliche as like putting up a quote, you know, putting up a quote on a note to just sticking it somewhere, or a picture of somebody that inspires you just to serve as a reminder, or maybe we can take up time out of our day to just actively practice that mindful awareness of what inspires us. But I would treat it like a living thing. It needs your care, it needs your attention, and it needs you to nurture it. If you want your inspiration to flourish, you gotta raise it right. So just think about what you can work into your daily routine. And in doing so, I challenge you to recognize, seek, and share inspiration in meaningful ways. That's the presentation. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Feel nice and inspired. A fun topic, right? I wanted something to make people feel a little bit more uplifted. You know, I wanted to talk about something to put us into a little bit of a better state of mind, because we don't want nihilism to take over. We don't want pessimism taking the reins. Right now, what we need is inspiration. What we need is a good driving force. My lib friends are dooming every day. I have to cheer them all up all the time. Were you here yesterday when we had a question in the question box, and it was Evie and others' question, and they were talking about their libbed up friend, and they're just all of this like moral grandstanding and virtue signaling that their friend was doing, and it was just so cringe. They were just like, oh, you don't want to sign that petition? I thought you were waiting for the revolution. It's like, shut the fuck up. God, that one got me so frustrated. I was like, your friend sounds really fucking annoying. The environment I live in is very uninspiring. I'll have a very short list with things that are all on the internet. It's a great opportunity to add to that list. If you've got a short list, hey, at least it's a list. At least you got a list going. That inspires me. I'm finding inspiration in you having a list. Short or not, you got a list. That's more than some have. What can we do to add to it? The revolution is happening right now. Oh my god, you're right. What's going on change.org? Is change.org still a thing? Has change.org ever done anything ever? I don't think so. I don't think it's actually done anything ever. Right now on the front page of change.org is an 8th grader changed the school calendar, and the mayor called them. The New York mayor called them, apparently. Apparently they had to go to a 1-day week of school on the week of December 23rd, and they said, actually, no, don't do that. It took a petition with 23,000 supporters to get kids off school for 1 day, and they made a whole fuss about it. This is what change.org is doing. After a PA school board canceled an assembly because of the presenter's quote-unquote lifestyle, parents, students, and community members fought back. Wait, what was his lifestyle? What's the story here? Hold on. Somebody's empathy and anti-bullying assembly was reinstated? What was his lifestyle? Was he gay or something? Is that what is that what they mean by quote unquote lifestyle? Hold on, I need to I'm curious now. Hold on, I have to. Oh yeah, he's openly gay. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Well then yeah, that makes sense. Wait, they've got rid of him because he was gay in 2025? Well, that's kind of fucked up. I filled out my information. Am I part of the revolution yet? I don't know, man. How many Molotov cocktails have you stuffed together? Just kidding. Don't do that. That's a joke. Don't take me seriously. Everything I say is a joke. Don't actually take a word I say seriously. Alright, let's go back to the question box. Let's do it. Let's get back to it. I am diagnosed with complex PTSD plus depression. I have a bad relationship with my family except for my oldest sister who lives far away from me in another state, so that means I'm on my own. My difficulty is that I live in poverty, and every time I try to improve my education in any way, I feel like I'm working against windmills and completely helpless. What can I do so that I don't feel helpless like I did in my childhood? You need to find the people that can support you. You know, if you're... What are the possibilities of, you know, maybe moving closer to your sister, or even maybe just going to visit and staying for a while just to get out of your environment and to just, you know, get a change of scenery and, you know, feel a little bit more connected and supported? When it comes to overcoming feeling helpless, what we need to do is ask for help. You know, none of us has to make it on our own. None of us has to do that. And so, if you're dealing with CPTSD, if you're dealing with depression, we need people that can support you through that. You know, and that means professionals, that means friends, that means loved ones, that means people who are trained and educated in that kind of stuff. If you're feeling like you're on your own, that's where you want to start. What can we do to not feel like we're on our own? Do we need to access local resources? Do we need to expand our search parameters? Do we need to widen our net? We're trying to build our safety net. We're trying to build our social support network. A good net works when it has many connections within it. So what can we do to expand that? What can we do to open up to resources? You know, maybe you have access to a counselor, or there are support groups. You know, maybe if counseling isn't an option, maybe if there are barriers to that, you know, maybe looking at something like a public group, you know, something that's not quite therapy, but can still be therapeutic in its own way. The most important thing here, though, is to not do this on your own. You know, we need to find those people that can help you. We need you to feel like you've got somebody that has your back. You have people that are in your corner. This is an exciting time, you know, as stressful as things might be, and you know, and feeling like you're on your own and you're feeling helpless in this. This is an exciting time. There's a lot of potential for growth and change and getting better. This is a big moment. And so, in some ways, I feel excited for you. There's a process to healing, and one of the really important parts of that process is recognizing the true nature of our suffering. Because once we do that, we properly understand what it is that we're up against. Now is when we can really make some meaningful strides in working to fix it. So keep learning, keep growing, keep connecting, keep asking for help, keep accepting help when it is offered. You know, it is through perseverance and connection and resilience that you will get to where you're trying to go. Yeah, I often get excited when people tell me stuff like this because I get excited at your potential. You know, you're in a place where you can really start to make a difference and you can really start to feel better. You know, you're breaking patterns and traditions that have existed for your whole life. This is a really important moment. So that's why I get excited. Just all of that potential that you have to make some meaningful, positive changes in your life. I love to see it. You love to see it. You know, treating PTSD, whether it's regular PTSD or CPTSD, the difference being duration for the most part. The simplest explanation for the difference between PTSD and CPTSD is duration. The amount of time that you were in that traumatic environment. But what I was trying to say was, when you are working on healing a trauma, you want to work with people who understand trauma. You know, there are people who specialize in understanding healing trauma. They understand, you know, and when you are dealing with trauma, it can feel so... it can feel frustrating sometimes when you work with people who don't understand it, or they undervalue it, or they just don't really seem to get it. But when you work with somebody who truly does understand the nature of trauma and how it operates and how it can affect a person, it can just be such a load off. You know, it could just feel like such a relief, just finally feeling understood. Packed my bags for my trip so carefully, but I forgot my slippers. Well, it sounds like you're gonna get slippers in Spain. You're gonna get some chanclas. Yeah, that's right. I know the Spanish word for slipper. What about it? I need the anger presentation again. It's right there in the Discord. The slides are right there. We got them right here. Just right here. Anger. W. Anger.pdf. I have CPTSD, and for me, it feels like a tsunami. You want to ride the wave when you start to go to therapy. You know, when it comes to dealing with trauma and unpacking trauma, it's like once you start, it's hard to stop. You know, it feels like the valve has been opened, the dam has been opened, and now the floodgates are open, and now here it all comes. Yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming sometimes, but take it at a pace that's comfortable for you. If you start to feel overwhelmed, it's okay to take a break and pick it back up later. Do your cats ever tell the dogs to shut up? No, I wish they would. I wish they would, then I wouldn't have to do it. I wish the cats would set them straight. But no, they don't. Atticus thinks he runs the show. That dog's got a fat head in more ways than one. Am I petting a dog or cat right now? No, there was a sticker that was partially stuck on the side of this cup, and I was peeling it off. I was scraping it off. Just me doing OCD things. I read the CPTS Pete. Okay. Oh. I haven't heard of this one. Let's look it up. You read those books? What'd you think? From Surviving to Thriving. This one's got good reviews. .8 stars with 11,000 ratings. That's pretty good. It's number 11 in post-traumatic stress. What's number 1 in post-traumatic stress? The body keeps the score, of course. Oh, is this the Stephanie Fu book you read, What My Bones Know? I've heard good things about this book, too. The main takeaway here is that healing is possible. That's the thing that you gotta remember. I can get better. Sometimes that's the biggest thing you just really need to be able to sell somebody on, is the idea that they actually can get better. You know, when people really struggle the most is when they just feel completely, utterly hopeless. Like they've got no chance at getting better. They feel like they've tried everything. They're just not sure what to do next, and they're just tired. If everything that you've tried hasn't worked, you need to try something different. Now that could mean literally trying different things, or that could mean trying the things that we tried again, but in a different way. Just because we haven't got it figured out yet doesn't mean that we won't get it figured out. I'm one of those people that can't read these types of books because it's so overwhelming. I'm gonna be honest, I don't read very many of these types of books either. It's like I spend enough of my free time thinking about psychology and mental health and trauma and how to help people, how to heal. I spend a lot of my free time thinking about that stuff already. I guess if I ever run out of stuff to think about is when I go to pick up a book. My mind has a way of keeping itself quite occupied. That's why I like fiction books. I like fiction books because it's able to take me outside of reality. You know what I mean? I spend enough of my waking hours thinking about the sober nature of our reality. I like to spend my leisure time thinking about other stuff. My favorite types of books are fantasy and science fiction. Well, we're all caught up on the question box, so what does that mean? What does that mean? What do we do now? So that's your healthy escapism, you mean? Yeah. You know, whenever I find myself just wanting to not think about the human condition, I like to go into the world of fiction. Nothing wrong with a little bit of escapism. I feel like we all need it. Slow Horses series. Oh, they made it into a series on Apple TV starring Gary Oldman. And it's based off of some books. Sounds interesting. Sounds interesting. I just finished a big book, and so now I'm in the market for finding a new series of books. I just finished the 5th book of the Stormlight Archive. It's a fantasy epic. But it's also got mental health tie-ins, which is pretty cool. You know, you don't normally see that stuff in fiction and fantasy, but they had like realistic depictions and interesting, you know. You basically get to see the concept of therapy being developed in the world of the book. It was actually kind of cool. Take off a little early today. I take off a little early because I need to go take a shower. I was outside shoveling snow before we got started, and I didn't have time to take a shower, and so I need to go take a shower. Also, I need to go before I poop my pants. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I don't think anybody wants to see that. So we'll hang out here for another minute while I figure out where I want to send you. So if we have any last minute thoughts or questions, let me know. We'll be happy to take them. I'm parasocially connected to a streamer who recently stopped a streaming marathon and now I feel lonely. You need a friend? You need people in your circle, people that you can lean on and confide in and see and be seen. This is also your chance for any last minute subscribers, you know, just a thought. At least I have work friends tomorrow. Yeah, but work friends are work friends. Work friends are work friends. Work friends can be okay. Sometimes we need friends that we don't have to also work with. We want friends that we don't live with, that we don't work with, that we can go our separate ways and live our separate lives, and then when we come back together and hang out, we can share all of the exciting stories of all of the stuff that happened in the meantime. Oh, we got a question. Hey, perfect. There we go. So we have an opportunity for the last minute subscribers to do the thing, you know what I mean? No pressure. But let's take a look at this question, shall we? I feel like my parents have a bias they don't even realize. Probably. And I say that not knowing your parents. I say that not, judging your parents in any way. I say that because that's how biases work. When we have biases, we aren't normally actively conscious that those biases exist. And when we are presented with awareness of that bias, we might actively refute it and try to, oh, no, I can rationalize that. I can justify it. It's... Well, let's see what's going on with your parents. They claim they're not racist because they support people of color, but the moment I mention going out with my boyfriend, they get so upset and don't seem to understand why I care about him or want to spend time with him. It's frustrating because if I say I'm going out with my girlfriends who are people of color, it's completely fine. I don't know if it's because he's from another country or something else, but it really hurts. I mean, does he treat you fairly? Does he treat you nicely? Is he respectful? Is he kind? Is he a good boyfriend? If so, then what are they worried about? It could just be because he's your romantic partner. It might not have anything to do with where he's from or what he looks like. It could just be because parents can be protective sometimes when it comes to, the person that you're choosing to be with. It could be that. It might not be anything deeper than that, but it's one of those ways that people will be like, oh no, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. I love people of all colors. But then it's like you start dating a person from a different culture, you date somebody that doesn't look like you, and now it's like, ooh. So I don't know. I wouldn't immediately just jump to assume that it's because of some sort of hidden racism. It could also be explained by, they're just your parents and they're being protective of you, and most parents are innately suspicious of their children's romantic partners because they want to make sure that they're not playing you. They want to make sure that they're going to treat you right. And so that's to be expected. So I would assume that that's what it was until something happens that proves that it's something more than that. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's because he's from another country or something else, but it really hurts. My parents are from a different country themselves, and I just don't understand why they have this mindset. It makes me so angry, frustrated, and embarrassed. More than anything, it breaks my heart that they see him as anything less than any other human being. Have they said or done anything that would give you that indication? Okay, hold on. Let's read a little bit further, Lizzie. They've even told me that I could marry this dude, their words, and they wouldn't support or show up. Alright, well, okay. Now we're seeing a little bit beneath the surface. Okay. I would cut them out of my life completely if I didn't need the financial support right now. I just want you to take that into consideration because that really speaks to the quality of the relationship that you have with your parents. Yeah, if I didn't need their money, I wouldn't need them in my life at all. So it sounds like you might not really have a strong connection with your parents outside of they help to support you. What can I do to get through their heads? I don't know. You could ask them questions to get them to think about their beliefs. You could, try to process that with them and work it through it, and hopefully they would be able to understand, but it may or may not work. There's no guaranteed way to like change somebody's mind around these types of biases. Yeah, that's definitely something hurtful to say. It's like, yeah, if you marry this person, that's the wrong person, and we're not going to support you. We're not going to show up. It's just such a hurtful thing to say to a child. You know, this is your child. You want to have a good relationship with them. You want them to be happy. You want them to like you. And then you go and you say stuff like this. It's like, I can see now why it wouldn't be a hard choice for you to cut them out of your life if you didn't need the financial support, because it sounds like they don't really do much to support you in other ways, be that emotionally or, you know. So I don't know. Maybe talk to them about it. Maybe, you know, if you're going to talk about it, though, you have to go about it in the right way. You have to ask more questions. You have to explore their beliefs. You have to ask them why they feel the way that they feel. You can't tell them how to feel. You can't just tell them that they're wrong. You have to, you know, work it through, you know, by exploring what their beliefs are so that they can open up to a new perspective. And that can be tough. That can be a tricky process. It's definitely doable, but if the person doesn't really see a problem with their beliefs, it can be hard to sell them on the idea that there's something wrong with their beliefs. Either way, it's a sad situation to be in. It's a sad situation to be in. I just don't know what some parents are thinking, honestly. I just don't get it. We've got a little bit of further information. From the racism question, my boyfriend has been the greatest and we've been together for over a year now. I've had white boyfriends in the past and they didn't care about me going out with the white boyfriend. And the white boyfriend trapped me at his place and they didn't care. They have said questionable things in the past. Well, I mean, I would just take some time to think about, do I really need to put so much importance on what my parents think, because they have kind of shown that they might not be the most trustworthy source of judgment and inspiration. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, do they even know your boyfriend? Have they ever met him? Have they ever talked to him? Like, do they know him as a person? Is that something that they're even willing to do? Sometimes one of the best ways to overcome racist beliefs is to actually get to know somebody of that race. You know, get out of your bubble. You know, actually talk to people and engage with people, get to know them. Like, if they're too hung up on the color of his skin and they're not able to see that he's good for you, then that's their problem. And that's their short-sightedness. And, like, you can try to encourage them to see differently, and you can be patient and supportive in trying to help them do that, but, you know, it may or may not work. It's worth trying. You never know. But I feel like for now it's pretty safe to like dismiss their opinions because you can see that they don't come from a good place. they just sound kind of emotionally absent from you, you know? And, you know, having a good relationship with your parents is more than just it's more than just, you know, financial support. It's more than just putting a roof over your head and giving you food. And some parents will do just that and then they say, "Well, I did all I needed to do." It's like, no, a child needs to be nurtured. A child needs to be educated. A child needs to be emotionally supported. There's a lot that goes into parenting outside of just meeting the physical needs of the child. So I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that with your parents. That really sucks. God, finding out your parents are racist must be fucking terrible. God, that sucks. You know, if you do end up marrying this boyfriend, then I wish you all the best, you know? And just live your happiest life and just show your parents just how happy you are and how well you're doing. You know, make them regret not showing up. The best revenge is a life well lived. Can you try this quiz? It barely takes 2 minutes and I'm gonna die of curiosity. This is what it is? Or what is this? Love Persona. What am I doing here? It makes noises. New notification from unknown. Hey, happy Valentine's Day. This is what I would do in real life. Alright, what do you want? What do you want from me? I'm here to ask you 12 questions. Okay. Let's do it. 12 questions, let's go. What is love to you? My answer goes beyond all of these answers. It's all of these things, but also more than all of these things. I see love as a fundamental law of the universe. It extends beyond space and time. I don't know if I can pick. We'll go with number 1. Why am I... You gotta make moves. You gotta act. You gotta make moves. Ooh, a planetarium? That sounds fun. Quality time. 8 out of 12. We're almost there. Go-to outfit. Simple. Comfortable. Something I rock with confidence. Yeah, there you go. Item you definitely bring on a date. My wallet. Who am I in the friend group? Any words of advice on relationships? Anything you'd like to wish for? What? This is the most Gen Z thing I've done today. A hamster. I did all this to find out that I'm a hamster. Sounds about right. I don't know if this is accurate, though. I don't know. Maybe in some ways. Eh, I'll take it. Hamster it is. We'll take it. I can live with that. I can live with that. It is what it is. Well, hamster dance it is.
Here we go.
If you slow the... We found this out a while ago. If you slow the hamster dance song down to 75% speed, it actually goes pretty hard.
That's it.
Alright, I'm out of here. Have a great night, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll see y'all next time. Take good care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. 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 Bye bye.